Hello and welcome to TEC Bike Parts. Today we're going to be fitting our performance camshaft kit to this 350 Meteor. Now it'll fit all the 350 J series models, the new Bullet, the classic Reborn 350 and the Hunter 350 as well as the Meteor. The reason we designed a cam for this is, like all of these modern bikes, they've got very mild cams fitted into them and they won't breathe properly. Anything above 4,000 revs, they're starting to be restricted by the camshaft. And it really opens up the mid-range power, which these bikes are lacking for overtaking power. So on a lot of the models, apart from the Hunter, in the UK anyway, have a speed limiter fitted on the ECU. Now, this will not increase the speed on the models other than the Hunter because they have the 74 mph speed limiter on them. You can get rid of that by fitting the Hunter throttle body onto the other models, and it is just a plug and play. But without that, this will not go any faster. It'll just get you there much quicker, which is really handy if you're traveling too up, or you're up a hill or into wind, but particularly when you're overtaking other traffic, you'll get past other vehicles much quicker and safer. So this is what you get in the kit basically. You get the high performance cam. Now, compared to the standard camshaft, you'll probably be able to see that this width here is much wider. That's the duration of the cam, and that's the time it stays open. Also, the lift's higher as well, so it actually opens wider as well. Now, the standard cam is made out of nodular iron, I think. Ours is machined from a piece of solid high-grade steel. Then it's heat treated for hardness. Now, the things you need to fit the cam into the bike, because you need them, we've decided to manufacture them and supply them free of charge with the camshaft. There's a camshaft holding tool which holds it in position while timing it, and there's also a crankshaft locating tool to hold it at top dead center. You need these to fit the cam, so like I say, we include it in the kit anyway. Apart from basic hand tools, you're going to need a torque gauge that goes down to 10 Newton meters. This is critical for the cam carrier. That needs to be accurately torqued down. You're also going to need a set of feeler gauges that go down to 3 thou for the inlet and 7 thou for the exhaust. That's 0.18 of a millimeter for the exhaust and 0.08 of a millimeter for the inlet. For the cap on the left-hand side of the engine, you'll need a 14mm hex drive. You may have an Allen key. If you're really stuck and you can't get one of those, if you get a 14mm headed bolt and lock a couple of nuts on it, you can normally get it off with that with a spanner. Gasket-wise, you'll need a right-hand side casing gasket and a cam chain tensioner gasket. Apart from that, that's basically all you need. Okay, so the first thing we need to remove is the fuel tank. And to do that, we need to remove the fuel pipe and the electrical connector. Now, the fuel pipe, it has 2 little square clips on either side of it. You need to squeeze in hard and just gently pull it back. Don't try to force it or twist it side to side because it's just onto a plastic outlet. And also, it may be worth having a cloth handy because you may get a dribble of fuel out. Just in front and tucked up under the tank, you'll see a plastic cover. If you pull that back, there's a connector underneath. And on this side of the connector, there's a tab that you push in. You should feel like a click. And then just gently ease it down. And then your connector comes out. That's the bit that you push on the side there. So normally you would need to remove the seat, but on this bike, obviously being a custom bike, I don't need to. All I need to do is remove this nut and bolt at the rear of the tank, and then it just slips off. So the first thing we need to do to be able to turn the crankshaft around, we need to take this cap off here with a 14mm hex. And now that allows us to turn the engine over with a 17mm socket. You always turn the engine anti-clockwise. And that allows us to get it up to top dead centre when we're ready. Now you can change the camshaft without draining the oil if you do it on the side stand, because we need to take the right hand casing off. But on this bike it's due an oil change anyway, so we're going to drop the oil and change the filter anyway. So I'm going to do that now, but I'm not going to bother filming it because you don't need to see that if you're doing it on the side stand. So with the tank off, I've taken out the spark plug, I've loosened off the coil and the air injection just to slip that out of the way so you can see what's going on better. And I've removed the 3 M10 headed fixing bolts from the top, and the top cover should come off. Now if that's tight like it is on this one, you might just need to give it a tap with a mallet to get it to come off. So we need to be on this side so we can get to the hole in the end of the crankshaft where we get the camshaft locking tool in the top dead centre locking tool. So to take this side off, obviously we either need to lean the bike over to the left if you've got oil in, or in this case I can just take it off because I've drained the oil out of it. Now on the Meteor, you'll need to remove the nut and bolt that goes through the rear brake lever and the 2 cylinder mounting bolts. You can then just swing that assembly out the way and it gives you enough room to get the casing off. You need to disconnect the clutch cable and unscrew it from the cable, and then take out all of these screws around the outer edge. And normally if it's tight, give it a tap with a rubber hammer and put some pressure on the clutch mechanism with your hand, and that should be enough to get the gasket to break free. Try not to lever it out because you can damage the casings. So I'll do that now and then we'll jump on to the next stage. Okay, so I've got the right hand casing off now, and I want to get the engine so it's on top dead centre. Now the easiest way to do this, because there's actually several places in the crankshaft where the locking tool will go in and feels like it's located on something, so the safest thing to do is turn it up so the locking tool will actually fit in at top dead centre. Okay, so using your camshaft location tool, it slots into these 2 little holes on the cam carrier here. You may just have to jiggle it to get it in there. And the locating peg. Now that fits in this little hole in the camshaft, so turn the camshaft round until it's almost to the top, and then just gently take it round until that lines up. Now that's at approximately top dead centre then now. Obviously with your camshaft chain wear, that might have moved a little bit, so you may need to just jiggle it to get the locking pin on the other side. I'll show you where that goes now. Right, on the right hand side of the motor, now we've got it approximately top dead centre with the cam timing tool. The crankshaft locking pin tool goes in this hole here, not that hole there. It'll actually fit in that hole, that doesn't lock the crankshaft. Now if you find it doesn't go in, just jiggle a bit because it's got a taper on the end to help you locate it. And you should feel it go right into the shoulder there. You can hear it's locked the crankshaft there now. Right, so next we need to loosen the 3 8mm headed camshaft bolts. Now these are Loctited in, so you'll find they're quite stiff coming out. Just need to loosen them off for now. Be careful, obviously, working here, you don't drop anything down there. And next, we need to come to the cam chain adjuster down here, loosen the top bolt off, take it out and remove the spring, and then take the 2 M5 Allen keys out. Okay, so with the cam chain tension out and this loose, we need to remove the cam carrier, the 4 bolts out of it. So that's the 4 bolts out of the cam carrier. Now this might be a bit tight, sometimes you've got to prise it a little bit, but jiggle it off. Now be careful as you lift it up, because there's 2 dowel pins in a C-clip. And sometimes like that they get stuck in there, and you don't want to be dropping that into the engine, so just be aware that one's well stuck in there. The other one's been left in the head. Right, so just prise the cam out there with your fingers gently and slip your cam chain off. Now what you've got to remember is there's a C-ring there. Just take that out and be careful you don't drop it down into the engine. Right, you just slip a screwdriver or something through there to stop that dropping down, and that's your cam out. So on the bench you need to take these Loctiters and bolts out to get the sprocket off. Take all 3 of those out. Once you've got your sprocket ring off, it goes on with the little marking on the outside. I don't think it actually matters because it's adjustable, but it's got a RE mark as well on the outside. And just put a drop of Loctite on each one of the screws. Put your 3 screws in and tighten them, then back them off a turn, because it still wants to be able to move, so you can set the cam timing up. So just enough so you can move that. So holding your camshaft chain with one hand, just drop the cam in. Now you want this flange here to be perfectly upright, but you've also got to make sure the front edge of the chain is tight and loop the chain on at the same time. So pull it tight and it should be approximately flat, or that holds straight up. Even though it's not in line, the top edge should be flat, and that should be approximately about halfway on the adjustment slot on the cam chains. Now the next thing you need to do, and make sure you don't forget it, is insert the C-ring. You need it out while you're fitting it, because you need to be able to slant the cam backwards and forwards. You can now fit the cam carrier back on, but I recommend you give everything a good lube first. So the cam carrier is on and down there. So next we need to fit the cam carrier bolts. Now Royal Enfield said these are a 1-use bolt and you need to replace them. So I'm putting 4 new in. If you can't get them from your local supplier, they are just a standard M6 high tensile steel bolt with an M10 head on them. They have got a flanged head, so you may have to use a washer if you don't use the RE bolt. So we'll just pop those in, and we'll tighten those down evenly to 10 Newton meters. So we just tighten those down evenly, corner by corner. Don't tighten them all the way down all in one go, just a bit at a time. They don't have a very high torque on them. That's them all down to 10 Newton meters there. So next we need to locate the cam timing tool in the 2 machine holes in the cam carrier. And if we just make sure that's pushed fully home in the hole. Now what we need to do is make sure that the cam chain is tight on the front run and tight on the rear run. So the best way to do that is actually refit the cam chain tensioner now. Now if you notice that the cam chain tensioner has an up mark on it, it must go in that way. Now I've fitted a new gasket on there. Just make sure it's fully back by pressing on there and pushing the pin back. And refit your 2 bolts. refit your spring and bolt, tension spring and bolt, and then you should hear the cam chain ratchet up to take up the tension. Right, so we're in the position now to time the engine correctly. The cam chain's taut, just make sure there's no lift or anything on there. Your cam timing tool's fully home and your crankshaft locking tool's in. So everything's timed up top dead centre there now. So all we need to do now is finally nip these camshaft sprocket nuts up. And you can then remove the cam timing tool. So you're all timed up there. Now the next thing we need to do is just check the valve clearances. Again, the engine's in the correct position to do that. So you get our feeler gauges. So the inlet is 0.08 of a millimetre. Remember the 0.0 because 0.8 would be far too big. And that in thou for comparison is 3/1000 of an inch. And your exhaust is 0.18, which is 7 thou in imperial. Okay, so I'll just adjust the tappet adjusters and set those now. Right, so everything's timed up in the engine now, so don't forget to remove your crankshaft locking pin. Now you can put your new gasket and casing back on there now. That's just a reverser taking it off. On the Meteor, you've got to refit the brake assembly back onto there. Put the top cover back on here, put your spark plug back in, connect all the air injection and the ignition coil back up. Put the tank back on, plug back in the wiring and the fuel. Obviously we'll have to put the oil back in this engine and filter in, and that's all ready to go. Okay, so that's everything all back together now. So just make sure all the oil levels are okay. Just start it up and let it tick over for about 10-15 minutes just to do the auto adjust on the ECU. And then after that you're good to go.